Hi guys, welcome back to The Contented Plant. Today we are going to do an update on my low variegation Monstera Albo and my Monstera Seedling, which is now just hitting a year old, so it's a great time to do a 1-year update. So let's get started. So in my last video on these two plants, we were transplanting them onto moss poles and putting them in a bigger pot. So since then, they have both put out, I believe, 2 new leaves. They both have one unfurling right now. So I'm gonna start with my baby Monstera seedling. It's not so small anymore. You can see it's getting quite large, and it's actually almost the size of my Albo now. And very exciting update. It has its first fenestrated leaf up here. And this is the newest leaf, and it already has lots of fenestration. So this plant has just been growing like crazy. It's very happy being on the moss pole. It seems to have acclimated into the bigger pot just fine. It has lots and lots of aerial roots growing out of it all over the place. You can see this one's kind of sticking straight up in the air. I'm not really sure why. I think it's looking for that pole because it kind of knows that that pole's back there. So the plant tries to search for something to grab onto. You can see it's got both of those aerial roots kind of at the back, ready to wrap around the pole, which they will probably do eventually. So at the moment, I have this plant sitting in the window in this nice bright and direct light. Obviously it's summertime, so we have a lot more light for this plant, and it seems to be very happy. It's growing very big. So what I will probably need to do in the next 6 months or so is move it onto the floor, because I just don't think it's going to fit in that window anymore. So I will be searching for a more permanent spot for this one to grow as it matures. So this one's always gonna hold a special place in my heart because I grew this from a little tiny baby seed and I just love it. I do have the other 2 seeds that I grew are with my friends. So I get to have updates on those because when I go over to their house, then I get to see it. And one of my friends, his leaves also are starting to split. So they're doing really, really well, and I couldn't be happier with the little baby seedlings. So this is my low variegation Monstera Albo, and if you guys have been following along on the updates, you know I got it as just a 1-leaf cutting with this very low variegation. This was the original leaf, kind of small and not very impressive. The stem did have striping on it, and that's why I was willing to get this, and I got it for a good price, so I didn't mind taking a chance on it. So this one has put out 6 new leaves since I bought it. I finished propagating it in water. It already had a pretty good root system, and then I planted it in some soil and kept it in my kitchen window for a while in that bright and direct light. But since it's summertime, I've moved it out to my big windows here. They get extremely good light, and I've been watching it really closely to see if it's handling that light okay or if it's getting sunburned. So far, so good, and I'm hoping that light will start to encourage the variegation to get better and better. So I have 1 leaf that is my favorite leaf, and it was the 3rd one. It was the 3rd one that this plant ever put out, and you can see it's got this beautiful variegation right here, and that looks really, really great. This was the 4th one here. You can see it doesn't have the big stripe of variegation, but it does have a nice bit of variegation on the end here, and then variegation kind of all the way up this side of the leaf as well. This one is the 5th one here, and you can see it's also got just light splashes of variegation around it. This is the newest leaf that it's put out since I transplanted it and put it onto the moss pole. You can see it has a bit of variegation on here, and it has a bit of variegation on the back. Not as much as I was hoping for, but that's kind of the reason I moved it out of the kitchen and I put it out to the living room, because I just don't think it was getting quite enough light in that kitchen window. And Albos tend to play around with their variegation if they're not getting enough light. So I did want to move it into a very bright spot and really start to encourage that variegation. So it's already putting out another leaf off of this one, And this one I'm not super impressed by. Usually I can see the white spotting kind of starting on the underside, but at this point it's not unfurled, so I don't know. I don't think it has a whole lot of variegation, but that's okay. A lot of times they'll put out a leaf that's not great, and then 2 or 3 leaves later you can get a really wonderfully variegated leaf, so I'm not too worried about it. There is a good amount of striping underneath this on the stem. I can try and show you guys. It's really hard to see it because it's always flipped up on the underside of these, but it does have striping. I'll insert some footage of the striping on here. And the stem is maintaining that striping all the way up. So if we get to a point where I'm really losing the variegation, I will go ahead and chop and propagate down to the best point of variegation. Now, I'm trying to avoid that because the best point is very far down on this plant. It's hard to see on the camera. I will insert some video footage, but the best striping, you can kind of see it here. It has beautiful candy cane striping underneath this point, but in order to cut it back, in order to encourage that variegation, I have to cut it all the way back to here. And even then it's a gamble on whether or not you can continue that variegation on. So I would like to avoid that if at all possible. What I'm going to do in the meantime is put it in that really nicely lit window for as long as I can, make sure it doesn't get sunburned, and keep fertilizing it and watching it grow and see if we can get some of that variegation to really come out. All right, I think that is all I have on the 2 Monstera plants. I will keep updating you guys as this one especially grows so we can continue to see where that variegation goes together. Right now, I would have to say we're kind of at a standstill. It's definitely not gaining more variegation, so we're going to hope that it does in the future, and if it does not, then we will chop and propagate it together, which terrifies me, but I will do it and we will do it together. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time at the Contented Plant. Bye-bye.